Hello there, everybody, and welcome back to Buckeye Politics. It's me, your favorite Ohioan. So today's video was actually suggested by Tentenacity again. You guys apparently love his comments because it's the second time that he's got the most likes. It's a very interesting scenario. He wants to do the former dictator of Nazi Germany, Adolf Hitler, versus the former dictator of the Soviet Union, Joseph Stalin. This is a very unique scenario. Did not expect this, but I'm going to do it anyways. What if we brought these two lovely gentlemen back from the dead and they ran for president? I'm just going to say this right off of the bat. This would end up in a Stalin landslide, simply because your average Western American does not necessarily know history all that well. They would not know that Stalin actually killed more people than Hitler. I mean, from a young age, we're always taught Hitler equals bad. Hitler equals bad. That's like the worst thing that you can be is Hitler. That's why the left uses it and they call us Nazis. Is because we're taught from a young age that Hitler and Nazis is literally the worst thing in the world. So even though Stalin would be bad, your average person, your average American voter would see Hitler, and then vote Stalin. And not to mention that Stalin has a very big fan base with a lot of with a lot of progressives in America and the communists in America. A lot of them really simp for Joseph Stalin. So I'm gonna say right off the bat, Hitler would be in a very bad position, but he would still have a few safe states. They include states of North Dakota, South Dakota, Wyoming, and Idaho. These are states that are very Republican traditionally, and even though their turnout would be very low, there's just enough Republican vote out there that they would still be mostly red and still be safe for Adolf Hitler. Hitler would also win the state of Oklahoma, the state of Arkansas, the state of Tennessee, the state of Alabama, and the state of West Virginia by safe margins. These are all states that are also very Republican, and as well as in the South, there is also a lot of a lot of I don't want to say racism, but because the South is obviously not racist still, but there's some of that appeal that Hitler will probably have to the South, and plus these are just simply the most Republican states in the country. Even though Hitler would do horribly, pretty badly, just because of who he is, he would still get there's simply just enough Republicans here that even with way low turnout and heavy swings to the Democrats, these states would pretty much be safe. The safe states for Joseph Stalin include the entire West Coast. I would not be surprised if Stalin outperformed Biden in places like Portland and Seattle. Stalin would also win the state of Colorado, the state of New Mexico, the state of Minnesota, the state of Illinois, the entire eastern shoreboard of Mid-Atlantic, New York, Virginia, Maine at large, Maine's first district, and I believe that is all the safe states for Joseph Stalin. Stalin would do all these states should make relative sense. But the state of Minnesota would be safe because Stalin would get that strong turnout in the Minneapolis area, and he would do very well in that in the Minneapolis area, similar to Biden. He get that college-educated, liberal, progressive vote out, and I think that and he'd also do very well with Union voters in the this part of the state. The Iron Range, the traditional Democrats would turn out heavily for Joseph Stalin, and a lot of voters in New Mexico and Colorado, they'd be afraid of Hitler. If voters in Colorado would be afraid of Hitler's social conservatism and him possibly outlawing weed. So I think that people in Colorado would vote for Stalin. And then New Mexico, a lot of Hispanics there would be afraid of what Hitler would do to them because Hitler was, a racist, Hitler. And so in New Mexico, Hispanics there would swing heavily back to the Democratic Party, and Stalin would win there by a safe margin. Similar story in Virginia, a lot of suburbanites that would associate Hitler bad, and vote for Stalin. Now, personally, in this election, I probably would not vote, and I've got to be honest, I'd probably vote Libertarian or something. But yeah, so that's all. So the likely states for Hitler include states of Utah, Missouri, Mississippi, Louisiana, Kentucky, Indiana, Nebraska at large, and Nebraska's first district. I mean, these are areas that are also traditionally Republican. The states of Louisiana and Mississippi would really only be safe because a lot of African Americans would turn out heavily against Hitler, so they would vote for Stalin, making these states barely likely. And plus, Republican turnout would be way low in both these states, and with Democrat turnout soaring, especially among Black people in this part of the country, it'd be just simply because they don't like Hitler. They'd be likely. Similar story with Missouri, Kentucky, and Indiana. Similar stories there as well. Strong turnout in Louisville and Indianapolis, outside of Gary, Indiana, and Utah. A lot of Mormons just wouldn't like Hitler all that much. That's about it. Stalin's likely states include states of Nevada, Arizona, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and Georgia, and also the state of New Hampshire. These are all areas that which will go to Joseph Stalin by likely margins. Um, Most of them should make enough sense. A lot of this map is simply because Republicans would not turn out, and a lot of the more and the turnout would be really low, especially among Republicans, because a lot of Republicans even associate Hitler equals bad, and I do completely oppose and I do completely I do not support anything Hitler stands for, but this is an honest prediction. A lot of people would simply just see Hitler and not vote, or they'd vote Democrat, and so that's why a lot of these states that are as more competitive are going much more Democratic, while the Republican states are getting pretty much the whole country would take heavy swings to the left, and turnout would probably be like really really low. So these are likely states. The lean states for Hitler includes into Montana, Kansas, Alaska, South Carolina, and that is it. These states should make enough sense. Montana has a strong white population and almost went to Obama, which is why it would be lean. Kansas is swinging Democrat already a little bit, so with the low Republican turnout, it would make sense. It would be lean. Alaska, similar story. It's kind of it's pretty much only like R plus 10 anyways. It's pretty close to being likely anyways. So with a low Republican turnout, it would probably drop down to lean. In South Carolina, after the African American voters in this state would turn out heavily for Joseph Stalin simply because they don't like Adolf Hitler. Stalin's lean also has a few lean states. They include states of Iowa, Ohio, and Texas. And I forgot to color in Nebraska's second district. That would be likely for Joseph Stalin. So here we have it. These are the lean states for each side. Ohio and Iowa would lean to Stalin simply because A, Republican turnout would be really low, and B, Stalin would actually do decently with Union voters and progressives in like the Cleveland area of Ohio, and Stalin would also do well decently with the white working class voters in Iowa and get high inner city and urban area turnout. This only leaves Florida and Maine's second district, both of which are going to very narrowly tilt to Adolf Hitler. Joseph Stalin would do very poorly in the Miami-Dade area, as Hitler would paint him as a socialist and get very strong support from the social conservatives and Hispanics in the Miami-Dade area. So Hitler might honestly flip Miami-Dade County, in all honesty. It sounds crazy to think about, but if Hitler just painted Stalin as a socialist and he ran a good campaign in Florida, he would honestly have a good shot at flipping Miami-Dade County and get strong support among Hispanics because of their anti-socialist politics. Well, Stalin would do very well throughout the rest of the state simply because people would not really turn out for him. Although Hitler might get decent margins at the Panhandle, I expect turnout to be low, and Stalin would do very well in all the suburban areas throughout the state. So that's why Florida would very narrowly tilt to Adolf Hitler. And Maine's second district, it's a very socially conservative area, very rural area. I could honestly see Stalin winning it. I think it would probably be one of the closest areas in this election. But I do think just because of how much it's trended to the right and also how wide it is, I do think that Hitler would very, very narrowly pull off a win there. So with that, we have Joseph Stalin with 382 electoral votes to Adolf Hitler's 156. Thank you for watching.